Here at the Giver Marketing Network, we don't leave you drifting out in space. We connect you to a coach who will help you build and grow your marketing business. Our process acts as a guide on how to connect with other businesses, maintain good relations, and establish a presence on the Giver Marketing Network. Each member within this collaborative group will have the opportunity to leverage your talent and influence, a true network effect. If you are looking to collaborate on more projects, welcome to the Giver Marketing Network, the most trusted and highest rated collective of specialists on the planet. Here we have a group of like-minded professionals who focus on making valuable introductions and helping each other grow by teaming up. Imagine Upwork meets a network and a coach. The talent collectively includes services like visibility and SEO, creating logos, designing websites, managing social media, outreach messaging, visual storytelling, and much more. Think of what you could do with laser-focused allies strengthening your business while offering your talents to the entire network. Click near this video for more information.
Welcome, everybody, to the Giver Marketing Network broadcast featuring Deane today and myself. We're going to be walking through how to make your brand voice for your company, your organization, and we're going to help you do that in an easy way. It's going to be a practical guide. We're going to use some artificial intelligence tools. We're going to have some fun, play, be curious. That's kind of the tone for today. It's not meant to be something that's overwhelming or exhaustive, but it's just a fun way to get started, get going, get moving, leveraging some of our modern tools to develop your voice, your brand voice, your developing tone and style of communication with others. So, Christine, we've worked pretty hard. You worked really hard at preparing some visuals today. I'm excited. We've been working on it a little bit together on a couple of pieces of it, but you really put a lot of heavy lifting into this. What did you learn just kind of preparing, just kind of getting things going?
Well, playing with brand is really a lot of fun. This is, you get to figure out who you are and who you want to represent, right? Who are you to the rest of the world? And so when you start playing with that, you really have to start diving in deep, like who am I, right? Who is my organization? What do I want people to feel like? What do I want them to think when they associate with my name, right? And so the possibilities are endless. Right? You got to think about what that is. And so there's just all these fun toys that you get to play with to make it that way. And so we're going to feature a little bit of that today. But I want people to start thinking, because when you don't do something intentionally, it just happens and it may not be what you want. Right. So if you haven't put any thought into your brand voice before, it's kind of emergent, and whatever people do or say is kind of what is. And so if you have a team that you're working with, they may be putting things out that don't really represent your brand well. So you really have to put something together that makes everybody so they're on the same page. Right. Otherwise, who knows? Right. Anything that isn't done intentional gets done unintentional, and then it's chaos. So let's make sure your brand is not chaos.
So you're the networking diva. How did you get into why play with AI? Like why is that so beneficial to you? Like give us a backdrop on that.
It's a time saver, really. And it also helps with the creativity. We've all been there where, you've worked hard all day, you reach the end of the day and you're like, I don't know if I have any creativity left in me, right? You've just used all that energy, right? So when you can use some AI to help handle some of that so that you don't have to use your energy on the mundane stuff, or it helps jumpstart ideas for you, right? Now that's less energy that you had to use and you can save for something else, right? So it just makes sense to bring AI into your business.
Excellent. You have some visuals here. Do you want me to bring that up?
Sure, let's talk.
Okay, fun. So we're going to make this easy, apparently. This is going to be good. I'm excited.
That's the goal. Brand voice made easy, right? It doesn't have to be super complicated as you're exploring and looking at the possibilities. This is a kind of a starting, jumping off point, right? So we want to make sure we have a little understanding of what brand voice is, what that's about, some of the essential elements, and then how you can use AI to create your brand voice and make it a little bit easier on you. And it's important to understand that AI is fantastic, but it's only as good as what you give it. So you got to put some thought into this when you put this together, right? So understanding your brand voice, right? Start identifying, what does that look like? What does that mean?
So your brand voice, you're saying here it looks like it's got to feel like a person. You got to be able to interact with it in a way that it's almost like you're communicating with a friend or somebody specific. Is that what I'm seeing here on this?
Yeah, but when you think about your brand, who is my brand, right? What is that like for a personality? What are their characteristics of my brand? If it was a person, what would it be, right? It's kind of personify it, right? And how they talk, what kind of words do you use? What's the overall feeling you get when you communicate, right? So how are people interacting with your brand? And so when they walk away, what key words would they use to describe your brand, right? So you kind of want to think about, who am I?
So what do you say to somebody that says, everybody's my customer? How do you have that conversation?
Well, and so we often say, if everybody's your client, then nobody is, because you have no differentiation between who is and who isn't, right? It's kind of like back in the Mary Kay days, everybody that has a face, right?
Mm.
Well, yes, everybody has a face, but it doesn't mean everybody wants your product, okay? Just because I'm a huge fan doesn't mean the person next to me is. So you got to make sure that you're distinct. And if you're not, right, then you just kind of fade into the background with everybody else. You're just more white noise, right? So who are you?
Speaking of noise, there's a lot out there. So any way to bring clarity, some kind of creativity, or something that helps you stand out. And one way to do that is bring a message and a communication that's specifically for certain people or segments or groups. And that's really where we're heading here, as far as I can tell. So it's a good conversation starter to get going. And then as we jump into AI in a few minutes, it's going to all start kind of coming clear. Oh, I see. Okay, we need to make sure that this is dialed in. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, whether you're a startup or you're a trillion-dollar company, you need to refine this. Like, this needs to continually be a reevaluation. Like, how are we doing with this? Have we lost our way? And we've all seen, even the trillion-dollar companies, they'll lose their way every once in a while. They'll bring back a founder and they'll be like, hey, this is who we serve. This is our person. This is our group. It's almost like a musician, like a band coming back to their original creativity and saying, this is our audience. Like, this is who loves our music. And we have to kind of think of it that way. We've all seen these organizations, these musicians, these companies kind of lose their way and then kind of come back. And, oh, they're back. They speak to us. Like, that's what you really want in your organization.
Absolutely. That's a really good point, because when it comes to brand voice, if you're not appealing to your ideal client, then what's the point? Right? If you're not doing anything that's attracting them, then you've kind of defeated the purpose, right? You've got a great brand voice that resonates with no one, right? So make sure that it's going to resonate with your ideal clients.
Cool. Well, we got three pieces here that I thought was interesting when we were kind of preparing for today and going through some different things. How do we do this? Like, walk us through these three pieces.
Right. Well, when you think about brand voice, like, why do we even care, right? It builds recognition, right? So when you're consistent in all your channels, they know who you are, right? We know what to expect from a brand. When you're inconsistent, then they don't know, is it going to be good customer service? Is that even an important thing, right? And some brands, I would say, don't really care. So really, you want, what do you stand for? And are you seeing it consistently across all your channels? Are you seeing it the way you're represented all times? So if they recognize and like, oh yeah, I can always count on, if I'm driving down the road, I know if I pull over for a Starbucks because I want to drink and I want to use a restroom, I know it's going to be clean. Okay. I recognize that. And I recognize the symbol, oh, road trip. definitely stopping at Starbucks, right? So whatever it is, what do you stand for? What can we consistently see with your brand, and what can we expect, right? So recognition is a big part of it.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, as you're watching this live or the recording, put your comments in, ask questions, take notes. This is a really, whenever you take notes in the comments, this is a really, and ask questions in the comments, this is a really good way for us to be seen by more folks and for you to take notes at the same time and for others to be encouraged to do the same. So it creates a positive momentum and energy in the comments and the chat sections, if you will. So really appreciate you doing that. It'll really bump up the conversation quite a bit. So appreciate that. All right, so we got our build it, recognition, connection, set you apart. Anything else you want to share on this before we move on?
That's really a big part when you think about the different reasons on why you want to have that brand voice. When we talk about creating connection, right? That's that trust factor, like knowing that when you show up at that Starbucks, you can use the restroom, right? Yeah. All those kind of things really are very important, right? So when you think about your brand voice, who are you, right? So that's the question I want you to be asking yourself. And so feel free to put comments in chat on who you are, right? What does that mean? Right? What's that mean for your company, your organization, whether it's a for-profit or a nonprofit? It's just as important, right? If you're looking for people to participate and engage with you, they got to know who you are and if they want to.
Some people don't like to be pigeonholed into a personality type or a particular brand or a particular style. They just want to be a free-flowing, I do whatever I want, whenever I want, and you can't box me into a particular way of doing things or saying things or communicating things. And we're here to tell you, you're welcome to do that. But what you're going to be is everybody's friend, and you're not going to provide as much value right off the bat. It won't sink in unless you spend massive amounts of time with that person. They finally start realizing who you are as a company, as an organizational leader, as a representative of an organization of some kind. Unless you get into like, this is what sets us apart, this is what makes us unique, this is what makes us different, unless you're able to have that conversation, you are literally an associate, a friend that is interesting, but they may not do business with you, they may not donate to your organization, they may not be able to participate with you, partner with you, be a power partner, be a referral partner. They may not be able to know even how to refer you to somebody else. So at the end of the day, this is so important for you to continue to refine this. We're doing this right now at Giver Marketing Network, and you'll see some examples of how we're playing to kind of get our minds going and get more refined. Not limited, but refined. And so that's really important. Right. You want your...
And think of, if you're not consistent, right? How can they trust you?
Ooh, what a question. Put that in the comments, somebody. If you're not consistent, how can they trust you? Christine Deane, bringing the statements today. I love it. If you're not consistent, how can they trust you? That's a really good... Somebody needs to put that in the comments. That's really good. All right, so values, tone, language, personality, these are all the kind of the flavors and the pieces and the parts of how to build that brand voice, right?
Absolutely. And really, it's so important as we dive into this a little bit deeper and take a deeper look at the values, right? We start seeing, okay, this is why this is essential. Like I said, how can they trust you? Right. Well, so your brand voice really should reflect your organization's values, right? So you got to identify your core values. If you haven't identified it, how do you expect your audience to identify it? How do you expect your team to identify in order to make that a consistent part of their everyday life and business, right? So start thinking about that. Identify, what are your core values, right?
It's so fun because we've been going through some different exercises over the last several years and trying to refine this, and we're continuing to work on this, but we came up with an acronym for our core values, which is CREATE. It's collaboration, results, efficiency, positive attitude, transparency, and high levels of energy. So it spells CREATE when you kind of write it all out, or when you try to remember it. It helps me remember it, helps others remember it, and so that started out as something else, and then we're like, wait a minute, that spells create. If we can just do it in this order instead of that order, it's the same core values. We just rearranged the letters so that it spelled a word. And with my public speaking background, that helps remember that.
Those mnemonic devices come in handy, right? And really, when you're reflecting on it, because one of the big things about your values, do you just say it or do you mean it?
Well said. Well said. Yeah. We're working better on communicating that more. And so even this exercise here is helping me bring that top of mind. Okay. Do I share that with enough people? Do we share that with enough people? Do we have that on our pages and our communications and pieces? Do I share it publicly like this often, or is it rare that I share it? These are really good questions. And if you can slip them into a conversation, these are our core values. People are going to go, oh, I either align with that or I don't. I'm coming closer. The trust is building higher, to your point earlier. All right, so let's talk about mission statement.
Well, and actually, I do want to point out that your belief system, your core values, right? That should guide all your decision making in your business. Does that align with our core values? If it doesn't, then it probably shouldn't be part of your brand. You probably don't want to be doing it. It's probably not a service or a product that you want to bring to the table, right? Because it's not in alignment with your core values. So that should be guiding all of your decisions. And that tells you whether or not you're on brand or off brand. That's a pretty easy way to make that distinction. Nope, this has nothing to do with our core values. Okay, then it's a really cool idea, but someone else has to do it. It helps keep you straight on your priorities.
Oh, helps you prioritize what's most important. I like this. I'm thinking of that first core value, which is collaboration. If we're wanting to partner with another organization, or if I'm wanting to engage with a particular entity in some way, shape, or form from kind of that founder level, if they're not collaborative, why in the world would we partner with them if that's one of our core values? If they're just like, you know what, we got our thing, you can come in and do this, or I can come in and do this, and there's not really like a collaborative tone or a collaborative language, if their core values aren't anywhere near what collaboration really looks like, they may be great people. They're just not a good fit for us. Like, it's just not a good.
If there's not a match in the core values when you're looking at teaming up with another organization, that's a big red flag that maybe this isn't somebody I want to come in and hold hands with and work on a project together, because we're going to have issues, right? You don't have the same values. You're running into problems right off the bat.
Well said. Okay, let's talk about mission statement. I love that you pop right next to each other. Tell us more about this.
To me, they just tie in so closely. If your mission is to do good in the world, for example, and we want to work and help businesses and causes doing good in the world with the giver marketing, right? If that's an organization that doesn't have that as their mission, then they're probably not somebody we want to be working with. Just saying, right? You've got to have a good. So what is your mission? When's the last time you looked at your mission statement? Do you even have a mission statement, right? If you have a mission statement, go ahead and put it in chat. We can see what that's about, right?
Oh, we want to see it. We want to hear it. We want to
just and does your mission statement, does it reflect your core values?
Oh, well said. Ours is to bring positive attention to causes and companies doing good in the world. So the key phrase there is positive attention, because you can bring attention, you can even bring positive feelings, but to bring positive attention is a privilege. And that's what we do on a daily basis. Everybody in our network helps each other with that. Everybody in our network works with their clients to bring some version of positive attention, which is what good, healthy communication can do for a company or an organization. So I love this, and it could certainly use some refinement over the years, but that's what we've started with, and that's what we continue to play with. And I love the fact that I just have a privilege of even sharing that today. Like, thanks for drawing that out, Christine. Appreciate that.
Absolutely. If you can make it so that your values and your mission statement and all that reflects your your brand voice, if it shows your organization's value and mission, right? Now you're enhancing that authenticity, right? You're letting people say, oh, I like that. I want to be a part of that. I'm loyal to this, right? When you think about companies that you're loyal to, something about it resonates with you, right? They're authentic and you're like, I can stand behind that, right? your brand voice also gives you that strong market presence. So you're attracting those people that it resonates with, right? So now you're bringing your tribe in. You're being authentic. Now you're bringing in people that feel that way and like, oh, I want to be part of that, right? Now we've built this circle of trust between the organization, the community, the people, the users, everybody that's involved, right? There's a circle of trust at this point, right? Now, everybody, that's all tied around your brand voice. Without a clear brand voice and what you stand for, right, you can't have any of that.
Love this. Hey, I want to show it. Somebody just gave a shout out to you in your statement earlier, and I think it's worth just popping right in here because you're talking about building trust and credibility, and it's such a good statement. If somebody can memorize this statement right here and associate it with our conversation today, that would be a win. Just that right there alone would be a really good win. So really appreciate kind of touching on that. Man, that strong market presence as opposed to a lost in the sea of others. Like I know there's a time to kind of just take a step back, but when it comes to your company and your brand voice, it's not. You're supposed to come to the front and say, look, I'm here to serve. I'm here to help you. I'm here to collaborate with you. I'm here to work with you. I'm here to help you accomplish your goals, to fix something or help with a problem or whatever the pain is. I can alleviate some of that. I can make life a little less frustrating for you as a business owner, a nonprofit leader, or whatever it is. I'm here to let's get to know each other. Here's our brand. Here's how we do what we do, but more importantly, here's why, and let's work together. So that strong communication approach. Some people will say, "Well, I'm really good at certain things, but it's really hard for me to sell." And it's like, well, are you confident in your own brand voice? Could that be a route to the issue? I don't know. Talk to some sales trainers, but I can tell you right now, this isn't going to hurt. What's on the screen, what Christine's bringing today, bringing her A game, it's not going to hurt anything to have clarity on this. So great job. All right, so we talk about consistency, tone. Can we dig a little deeper into tone, Christine?
Right, when you have your brand, right, and who you stand are, what your values are, and you're sending that out, that's consistent on who you are. But the tone might change based on the situation, right? Mm-hmm. You kind of have some go-to where we are always helpful. That's what we do. We're helpful. We're supportive, right? We believe, and you look at those values, collaboration, right? So those are things that are going to be standard. But what that looks like in particular situations might change a little bit. Right. And your tone is going to depend on your brand voice. Right. So, for example, if you are in the mental health field, right, having a tone of sarcasm probably isn't a good fit. Right.
Well said. Well said.
Yeah. Right. So you got to think what's appropriate, and knowing what's appropriate for your brand. How do you want your team to handle things when things go awry? Right. What does that look like? So if you normally are very helpful, okay. So how do you handle those situations? Is it, oops, my bad? Is it a, acknowledge it? Is it a pretend it didn't happen? Is it how are you handling these situations? And if transparency is something that's important to your organization, and that's one of your values, right, then you're probably going to be transparent with, oh my goodness, thank you so much for bringing that to our attention. Let's fix that. And let's take steps to make sure that doesn't happen again. Right.
Yep.
And if you've built that trust, when you say that, they believe you.
Yep.
Because you're consistent in your brand, right? So your tone adapts to the situation, but the overall brand voice, right, stays consistent. And any time you adapt it, it's still got to fit that original brand voice.
It's almost like when you talk to a friend or somebody and they have in certain situations, they're a little bit more relaxed. Maybe bring some humor to the conversation. And then in other situations, they're dressed to the nines. They're like super professional. That tone is based on situation. It's situational tone. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Absolutely. Very situational, depending on what's going on and what's appropriate at the time. Right.
I love this picture. Can you just tell me what in the world, what's happening here?
Express your brand's personality, right? If, like we said earlier, if your brand was a person, what would it look like? What would it be? What would, right? So are you more approachable and warm? Are you professional, authoritative? Some people are very like professional and kind of stiff, like I am an authority, but don't get too close to me, but I'm here. And if you need me, I'm going to give you the right answer, right? More of an austere kind of thing. You and I tend to use a little bit of humor. That's just our personality types. If I had to support a brand that did not incorporate any humor at all, it would be very difficult for me, right? It's just not part of my natural instincts, right? But to inspire people, right? Are you empathetic, right? There's times that depending on what you're doing, right? Some of these might be more of a calling for your brand than another, right? For us, we love to give.
That's a great point, because you want to try to be authentic as much as possible. And if you're trying to force humor, or you're trying to force certain aspects of professionalism or something like this, and that's just not where you are right now. That's not what you enjoy. It might be necessary for certain environments or situations, but lean into what your tendencies already are, and your brand will naturally enhance, is what I'm hearing you say. So that's a really
Absolutely. I have an appliance repair company that they said one of their, part of their brand is snarkiness.
Okay. Cool.
That works for that, right? But for other brands, it might not work. So you really need to look at what works for your business, and then what works with your audience, because just because you like something doesn't mean it's appropriate for your audience. So pay attention.
Yeah. I love that we can talk about core traits, certain attributes, guideline development. Help us understand this before we get into the AI application.
Yeah, so take a look at your core values. What are your 3 to 5 core personality traits? Okay, so once you figure out my personality traits, from there you can take it and, okay, what does that look like? How does that translate into actually action on my brand? Okay, so if humor is important, okay, since that's one of the playgrounds I like, what does that look like? So when you actually translate into active brand, right? I'm making jokes. I'm using humorous analogies. Right. So figure out what is the personality trait, and then how do you translate that? How do you actually make that come alive? Okay. Step 1 to step 2, right? Once you figure that out, now you can start creating that guide, right? Because once you've determined that, now you can give examples. Now you can kind of lay out, we do this, but we don't do that, right? And these situations, this is okay, but that's not, right? So you got to let people know what the expectations are within your team, so they know how to respond on brand. But also by setting that consistency, now those that you're interacting with, your clients, your partners, they know what to expect from you. Right.
Now, what if somebody said, "Hey, Christine, this is sort of important, but I'm a solopreneur, or I have a small team of 2 or 3 people. I don't need to create like a full-on guide, do I?" How do you have that?
Well, let's ask, do you ever plan to bring anyone else into your sphere? A virtual assistant, a part-time employee, a sales team, right? Any of those people coming into your organization to give you a hand with something, you have nothing to hand them for them to have a better understanding of who you are and what you do and what your goals are.
One of our philosophies is that lonelypreneurship is not as good as being part of a team. You can still produce and still do some good work, but it's not as good, or it's not the best or optimal situation if you can partner with others, even create power partnerships. Just that alone can develop some synergy and some productivity and some effectiveness and some efficiency as well. And if you have guidelines like this, partnering, like you said, with anybody, whether they're in-house or they're an extension of you, this can be extremely helpful. I'm working with one company right now. We're trying to help them go from 80 million to 100 million and in revenue. And we're trying to refine this even more. And you'd think, oh man, they're hitting some great milestones. They are. They're a national brand, and to some degree starting to become an international brand. If I mention their name, you'd recognize them off the shelf. But ultimately, they're still refining this, and we're bringing in more eyes and ears to do that because every tweak makes a massive amount of difference. If you have 1 million people seeing your stuff, like you need to make sure that that's dialed in. But even if you're starting off, you're a solopreneur or a founder or a startup, this becomes important because everybody who sees it for the next 10, 20, 30 years or more is going to be affected by it in some way, shape, or form. Otherwise, communication wouldn't matter.
Right. If you're in it for the long haul, and if you're looking for an opportunity to scale, these are the foundations.
Okay, cool. All right. So purpose of style guide, we talked about that a little bit. Training and implementation. How do we do this? How do we do this stuff?
Right. So once you've put it together, now you have to make sure you actually share it with the right people and teach them how to use it. You need to give them opportunities to apply it in whether it's a role play situation, right? But if they don't interact with the material and use it, right, they're going to forget about it and it just sits on the shelf. We've all seen where you create something for your business and then it just sits on the shelf and collects dust. You don't want your brand voice to be one of those things. You want to have people actually play with it and use it.
People are asking right now, I can hear it in my head. How much time is this going to take? Like, I'm sold. I want to do this more. I want to refine this, but how does this work? Like, is it going to take me 47 hours to like figure this out, or like how does this work?
Usually I can help my clients create in about 20 to 30 minutes. Why? Because we pull in AI.
Okay, here we go. All right, so we're going to do some are you going to show us
some screen sharing here, and let's take a look at how this works. One of my favorite tools that I love to use is Magi. If you're not familiar with Magi, magai.co. Okay, so within Magi, I get to create different workspaces. I get to create different opportunities in here so I can keep things organized, which works well because we have multiple clients, right? So if I go to Giver Marketing, and that's the workspace that I want to play in, and then from there, I'm going to create quick action. So I'm going to say, okay, I want to do a chat. Not only that, I'm going to create that chat so that it is, I like to let the auto select choose which chat platform is best. So I could pick and choose whether I wanted to do Claude or DeepSeek or right. There's all these different options on there. However, I like to do auto. This way it chooses the best one for me, which is one of the reasons why I enjoy Magi. And the option here we want to choose is called brand voice. So they actually, have a persona called brand voice. So if I type in brand voice generator. So when you set that up,
this is Magi is an aggregate of GPT, Claude, DeepSeek, Gemini, a bunch of other massively powerful language models, and it's all in one place. And you've selected auto so that it can pick the best language model to be able to help you do this exercise. Is that what I'm hearing?
Absolutely. This way it's nice and easy, and I let the AI do most of the work. So if I tell it and say, I wanted to create a brand voice, and we're going to say Giver Marketing Network. I'm going to let it know that's the name of it. So Giver Marketing Network. Okay. And it talks to you. I have to say, I've never felt so validated. It does a great job of acknowledging what you said and getting a feel for what you're doing. It's amazing. Dustin Stout, the owner, did a fantastic job putting this brand voice persona, right? So one of the things it's talking about, so what are the key messages you want to convey to your target audience in every communication from Giver Marketing Network? So this is where you start answering questions. It's that easy to create your brand voice in here. It asks the question.
This question, was actually the first thing that comes up automatically. Like this is already built in to the experience.
Absolutely. And one of the things it's got is if I can get it to scroll up. Here we go. So to craft a brand voice for Giver Marketing, I need to gather some information from you. Let's get started with the first question. So it's just a series of questions that you can go through and answer. And sometimes you have to stop and think about it. Sometimes you can go and steal the information off your own website or off any marketing material that you have and bring it back, right? It really starts to get you think about, is my information front and center? If I can't find it, and I can't find it on my marketing, I can't find it on my website, then maybe that needs to be a little bit more prominent, right?
Yeah.
So if you have a hard time figuring this out, right, you probably need to be thinking a little bit more about your brand and what you're doing with it.
One thing
Right.
I love about Magi is you can pop in URLs of all different kinds, socials and websites, and you can upload documents.
Right.
You can
Web
bring in,
search, attach, right? If you wanted to enhance the question that you wrote, and like you hit the enhance button, it makes it a little bit better, and you're like, "Ooh, that's even better than I thought mine was really good," but that made it even better, right? So
Yeah.
there's some really cool features in here that I love, and walking through this whole process helps you think deeper, and it starts getting that creative juices flowing, right? What is this? What do I want my brand to look like? And so you can do some if then scenarios, right? And start playing with that. It's not so much a right or wrong answer as what's right for your brand.
Okay,
So
so
as
how
you
do we
go
do
through, well, so you would answer the question. So what are the key messages you want to convey to your target audience in every communication from Giver Marketing Network? What do you think, Timothy?
I would say our target audience is lonelypreneurs in the marketing space and small agency owners. So the key messaging would be working in teams is better than working alone.
All right. So lonelypreneurs in the marketing space and marketing agencies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
specifically the smaller agencies. Yeah.
And smaller marketing agencies. Our philosophy, let's see, is it better to work as a team?
Yeah.
So it's kind of getting us started on some of the values. So it'll just keep asking questions as we go.
Excellent.
So it absorbs that. And this is, let's see, as it finishes talking here, it's talking about, thank you for the detailed information. This helps a lot in shaping the brand voice. Let's move on to the next question. So what values and personality traits do you want the Giver Marketing Network to be known for?
Well, we already talked about a couple of them. Collaboration is definitely up there, so we'll just use a few of them. Collaboration is number one. Results. Might as well just, there's only 6 words, so I'll just mention efficiency. Positive attitude.
And what else?
Transparency. And high energy.
Okay, let's see what it does. And at any given point, you can say, oh, and add, right? So when it's asking us questions, right? Great insights. It's helped refine the brand, right? Next question, how do you envision the Giver Marketing Network differentiating itself from competitors in the marketing industry? Remember we were talking about this, but your brand voice is what makes you stand out. So let's figure out what it is that makes you stand out.
The unique part of the network is that we actually build teams for clients based on the gig economy.
See, now it's asking questions about the things that we already talked about, right? So thank you for elaborating. More precise in defining our brand. So what tone and style do you want to communicate to maintain across all platforms, right? These are all the kinds of questions. So it's just walking you through what we've already been talking about. So if you take this and you follow all the steps, you end up with a PDF that you can download and use. So right here, it says export as PDF. So boom, we can download it. You can take it with you and use it in any of your AIs that you like to use that allow you to upload. You can actually take this brand voice and run with it. I'm going to go ahead and show what we've worked on in the past for our brand voice.
Okay.
Because we've gone through this before. Or I did on your behalf, Timothy.
Yeah.
What I decided the brand was after I've been working with you for many years. So I said, it's create, and it said, okay, excited to help you create. So it starts information, main purpose, what problem do you solve for customers, right? So I copied stuff from the website and moved it over. So we talk about coaching, consulting, and how we kind of got started, right? So I grabbed that off of our website, dropped that in here, talked a little bit about the blueprint, right? And it says, thanks for sharing the story and core values. Now it's got that dropped in there. So you can go into as much or little detail as you want, right? So your mission is centered around empowering socially conscious organizations and businesses to make a positive impact in their communities. What do you think?
Yeah, that is correct. Can you show that PDF on the screen at all?
Absolutely. Because all that is that's taken this and I've exported it. So this is all the questions, and we went through, answered, built it out. So through all these questions here, really doesn't take that long. I would say maybe 20 minutes to a half hour. And that's what if you didn't already have the answers, right? You're thinking about it.
You can put your website URL in here. You can put all social URLs. You can put all sorts of things for it to grab it for you. We just happen to be typing it in manually, but it's easy enough to leverage other documents, maybe vision documents, mission documents, planning documents that you've had over the years, and just put them in there and say, take all of these and apply it to our brand voice.
Absolutely. And that's the beauty, right? And when you're working in your workspace, you've got your brand voice, you've got everything tied together. By the time we answered all those questions, it said, okay, well, here's your brand voice guide for Giver Marketing, right? And it gives us an overview. Brand is warm, approachable, conversational, still conveys a sense of competence and expertise, trusted friend and mentor who helps socially conscious organizations achieve their goals and make a positive impact in the world, right? After I answered the questions, it came up with suggestions on tone based on what we said, language, right? Free of jargon, overly technical terms. That sounds like us. Storytelling techniques to bring clients' origin stories and goals to life, right? So any themes in here? We talk about origin story, visions, goals, challenges, marketing focuses.
So it just created a PDF or some kind of visual, like summary of the whole thing.
Yeah, this is the summary that it's created. And then what I did is I actually downloaded that whole thing and turned it into a PDF. So what happens then is you can take that and upload it into your, favorite AI that you want to use. And let me do a share screen on that. Here we go. And here's my PDF. So I just downloaded the whole thing. And now I can take it with me on the run, wherever I want to play. I've got something I can share with teammates. I got something that I can use anywhere. So this PDF is the whole questions, the assistant talking, the user talking, and it's got all the details in here that you can use and upload into anything else that you want to do.
So it actually downloaded the whole conversation, and then toward the end is where you start getting kind of the filtering out answers and the tones and the themes and the key messaging. And you could even ask it to leverage this and turn it into a social media campaign. You could turn this into a 5-year strategy document. You can turn this into, so you're starting to refine your voice so that you can do all of these other things that you've always wanted to do, but it might have taken you 10 hours, 20 hours to do it, but now it's going to take you 20 minutes to get started and maybe another hour of refining.
Well, and if you've got this to start with, imagine that you use this as a jumping point and you say, okay, does my website really address my core values? Does it fit my tone? Does it, right? So you might say, based on this brand voice, what would you recommend as pages for my website? How would you recommend I organize my website? How would you recommend I approach my social media? What do you recommend for storytelling? You can start asking questions, keeping that brand voice in mind, and it'll help you think about those other ideas and how you want to run with it. So imagine if you could hand this to other team members, right? And keep that.
I think for us, it's probably just as important what we delete or remove as we've evolved and grown and developed over the years as it might be what we add. So just to have that guide sitting there and say, look, if it's over here, that's what you started with, but that's not where we are now. Like we used to serve only lonelypreneurs in the marketing space. Now we serve lonelypreneurs and small agencies. And so we're starting to collaborate a lot more with other groups. And we didn't do that in the beginning. We were just baby embryonic company. And so, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to connect with somebody who could walk you through how to develop your brand voice, I would highly recommend two things. One, book an appointment with Christine, like right now. Like just take a picture of this or use your cell phone and grab that QR code there, networkingdiva.com/book will get you to the same place. I've spent some time with Christine. She's helped give feedback on a lot of things and some strategic direction, some implementation. She's very hands-on. She'll be able to help with your brand voice in real time, like actually get it done with you. That'll save you tens, if not more, hours in doing that. So that way you can start developing these other strategic pieces that are going to help you scale, not just grow incrementally, but actually scale and multiply. So that's
like you said, it's so important to reevaluate. You may have something that's a brand voice, but when's the last time you looked at it, right? Is it one of those that sat on the shelf and collected dust, or are you actually using it? So it's always a good idea to reevaluate and take a look. Is it still meeting my needs? Is it still a reflection of what we're doing in the business? Or have things changed, like things evolve in your business? Hopefully you continue to evolve and grow, right? And are you letting the team members know about that? Right? How are you letting them know that we've changed things? We're no longer doing this. We're doing this, right? So updating that brand voice and what you're giving to people is really important. So if you haven't done a refresh on that or taken a look, or maybe you did it back before AI was a thing and you want to kind of play with it and see, right? If that's the space you're at, I love playing. To me, this is all part of the emergent learning process, right? We're always learning about ourselves and our business. So this is an opportunity to hop on a call with me and let's play together and have some fun.
I love that. And it's super easy to work with you. I also mentioned for those who want to get a little play time and experimentation time with Magi, go to magi.co/giver. Magi.co/giver, and that should get you to, actually there's some deep discounts if you use that particular extension, that particular URL. That's magai.co/giver, and that'll get you to the place you need to go for that.
And I want to say that it's a great tool for solopreneurs or for agencies also. For example, if you want to have like I said, a workspace, I have workspaces for different clients. This way I can keep all their stuff together and it doesn't get mixed up and helps you stay organized. And that's one of the nice features on this, when you can use something and just keep things organized. If you've got a team, they can all go back to that same folder to find the information. Right. For me, I've got my clients signed in so they can go in and we can share information and play with things back and forth. Oh, I did this. Can you go take a look at it? Right. So it's a nice collaboration space. And that's one of the things I really enjoy about Magi is the opportunity to collaborate in there. It's worth giving a try. If you don't have a favorite one, you're still kind of hunting for one, it's a good place because you get to play. Like we mentioned, it kind of aggregates a lot of different options. So you get a chance to play with different ones. And there's some really cool tools in there. When you talk about branding, I recently, there's a Laura Flex in there. I uploaded a bunch of photos of myself, secret. And so I use that to then have it create photos of me. Scary accurate. I'm just going to say it's scary. I've got pictures up that people don't even know. It's not even me. So part of your brand, right? Whether you're creating the brand voice, whether you're creating images to go along with it, there's some opportunities in there. So if that's one of the things that you want to find out about, we can talk about that too. But
yeah, we didn't talk about the images today much. So thanks for bringing that up. And look, brand at the end of the day is the imagery and the language that explains who you are and why somebody would want to connect with you. That's ultimately, at the end of the day, there's five senses, right? Sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. And if you can't get the imagery, kind of that visual part, and the language and the messaging right first, it's hard to move into those other components. When you're in live events or going to a meeting or connecting with your clients, some folks are mostly virtual, but still, we still meet with people in person. So all of this matters, and it all builds on itself. But without your brand voice, none of it really makes an impact. You start getting lost in the sea of everybody. And so we want you to stand out. We want to make sure that you're in a blue ocean strategy where you're really standing out and you're providing a lot of value, and people are understanding that. So thank you, Christine, for preparing this today. For those who have questions or comments or thoughts, connect with Christine. She's very available on all the social platforms as well. But really, the best place to connect with her is grab a time with her. Mention Giver, mention Magi, mention something that has to do with this brand voice, mention something that has to do with our broadcast, and she'll give you a little extra time to be able to go through that with you today, okay? Or whenever you book that.
Book that appointment. I'll help you create your brand voice. You can take it and run with it and have fun with it. If you want to continue to talk about branding, we can do that too. This is just the tip of the iceberg, and there's so many possibilities on how to just make your life a little bit easier. And that's really what it's about. Being a business owner is so overwhelming sometimes. So you've got a team to give you a hand. So let's talk and have some fun with it. Great. And if you want to talk in person, we could talk about that tomorrow at Networking for Marketers. We meet on Wednesdays, 8 a.m. Pacific or 11 Eastern. Register once at givermarketing.com/networking. Save it to your calendar and just pop in, say hi, super casual, having fun. If you have questions about creating your brand voice, pop in and say hi. We'll talk about that.
Excellent. Now, givermarketing.com/networking is a good place to put that on your calendar so that you can connect with other like-minded marketing, communication, media, PR, artistic professionals who are trying to communicate something of value to the world and move the positivity meter forward. So really appreciate you facilitating that time, kind of that open house conversation for folks to come in, learn, grow, connect together. It's a bit of a networking meets white labeling, meets learning from each other, meets kind of a light mastermind, more conversational, and really digging in and helping each other and start collaborating even before you're a member of the Giver Marketing Network. We want to get you collaborating and connecting. And so that's really, really powerful to be able to spend time with people who actually want to help you. And then you can go after the larger projects, the larger clients together as a team. We're in a different era, ladies and gentlemen. We got to leverage these tools. We got to leverage the networking opportunities to be able to collaborate. Otherwise, we will get left behind. And so we want to help you move forward in your strategy as a business, as an organization, especially as a professional who's supporting those organizations. So God bless you guys. We'll see you tomorrow at givermarketing.com/networking.